gay Yasuo players. You didn't get anything. This is something out there for people that are still
players are like Noxus listeners. You're not going to get what you're here for. So move along.
No, Noxus fans, we're going back. Don't leave us. Don't listen to this man.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 44. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hetch.
And we got new set hype. I love it. I love getting to play when all the new cards drop.
Finally, if you listen to our past patch episode, we talked about it, and now it's out. It's all here. We got all the cards. People are brewing. There's hell in the streets. There's blood everywhere.
Reddit is already calling for Irelia's blood, which it's like, after how many months of just Ionia being a meme, we couldn't give it a day?
Make Ionia good again. Wait, not like this.
The first one, like, it was like day one, Irelia nerfs were being called out for it. Yeah. It's like, guys, please, we finally got back to a place where Ionia is playable.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start off with housekeeping real quick before we hop into the what we're playing. As always, you can listen to us everywhere. Follow us on Twitter to keep up to date on episodes. That's at podcastcor. That's podcastcor. You can send an email to podcastcor@gmail.com. Leave a like, follow, and a short review / comment. We appreciate it. It makes us look good. It pushes us up so more people can listen to us. But for your friends, tell them to rest a millennia and listen to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Nice.
I
would like to rest for a millennia.
That's too long. We got to put out episodes, Hetch. How the hell? What kind of 1,000-year schedule? That's not going to work.
200 years.
200 years. The one true schedule. So state of the game. I'm not playing anything yet. The season just started. I haven't even. I have one deck I'm looking at, but I don't even know if I want to play that, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I'm going to get in there, probably brew a little bit, see if I can find the workaround to the nonsense and bloodbath I've been seeing on Reddit while I've been working. So we'll see. What have you been messing with? We all know.
Yeah. I already said what it was going to be. I'm holding true to my word. I am playing with Quinn Irelia right now, but it's
what a hipster.
Like I have it built around with Grand Plaza, so that way it still plays kind of like the Azir build that everyone started off with.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing swim. Which the Azir build is a lot more consistent, but I mean, it's still just like, if you get Grand Plaza down on curve, it's that nut draw of just attacking with 2/1s for free. I've only gotten it done one time, but I have flipped Quinn on the turn that I've played Quinn.
That's disgusting.
Oh, it was technically I didn't get to flip Quinn because they conceded off of the second attack, like the second blade dance, and then it was like, oh, I haven't even scouted yet, and they just quit. So
could you imagine? I think future us is probably going to listen back to this and be like, huh, crazy how they just took blade dance out of the game as a patch.
Like Reddit gets what they want and Irelia is just removed from the game.
Yeah, future us.
That would be on theme for Irelia in League of Legends. How many times has she been nerfed?
Yeah. Future us, let us know how it goes. Reference this again in a couple episodes and see how fast Riot turns this around.
Yeah, future us, hit us up on podcastcor at Gmail.
Leave a like and a short review / comment. All right, so let's hop into the cards. We're going to hop into the main topic. You knew it was coming with these new releases. A chip off the old block.
That's right. We're talking about Chip today.
We actually wrote the title first, and then Riot created the set.
That's right.
Crazy how that happens.
That's right. You're welcome, Runeterra community. This is all us. So I'm gonna do just a little bit of a mix up on this, which is I'm gonna talk about the follower first. So we're talking about Malphite, but we're gonna talk about the real hero of the day, which is Malphite's son, and that's Chip. If you have been paying attention to the game of Runeterra and this launch coming out, everyone knows Chip. Everyone loves Chip. We would all die for Chip. But let's go ahead and just talk about the card itself. It is a 1 mana, 1/1. Once you've summoned a landmark this game, grant me +2/+2. The wording on this was a little confusing. It's still like kind of catches me to where it's like it's worded to make it feel like you have to play Chip and then summon a landmark to get the +1/+1. But the reality is, if you've summoned a landmark, I get +2/+2. And Tragon with this set has gotten a couple relatively cheap landmarks. Instead of just only being the Targon's Peak. But also, this is a set post Shurima. There's a ton of landmarks out there, so you can pretty easily get Chip to be a 3/3. I did get to play against one guy playing Malphite, and he curved out Chip with the attack token, so I took one, and then the next turn played the predict landmark that summons a clockling. So then it was a 3/3 on turn 2. It's like, okay, yeah, like this, like that feels pretty good as far as your early game, and it's not a dead draw, which is nice. But
they want people to play Chip.
They want people to play Chip. We all want to play Chip anyways. I think Chip could have just been a 1/1 with vanilla text, and we'd all be on board.
People play like no champion decks with Chip. My favorite part of this card is with what they decided to do with the flavor text here, the quote.
There's a story.
Yeah, it's broken into parts as Chip's story. And we got a little taste of that when we looked at Shurima with the journaling that was related to a lot of like Talia's friends and their cards. That whole gang as they're kind of running around Shurima getting into, kid adventures. So we had that kind of representation of a continued story across multiple quotes and cards. So to see them bring that back under an already beloved character is really cool to see.
It's awesome. With the cards that we're going to talk about today, there's going to be a couple of the parts that we do talk about, but I think there's like 5. So go look at some of these new Tragon cards and read through his little story. It's very nice. I'll give one more hint as to another card that has it, but it's worth reading. It's adorable, but it's also really fun to see these stories. All right, so that's going to take us to the spell. So the spell is going to be Ground Slam. So Ground Slam is a 4 mana fast speed spell. Stun a unit. Deal 3 to it if you've summoned a landmark this game. Again, like I said with Chip, this is post Shurima, and with this new set that just dropped, we're getting Tragon got more cheap landmarks. Getting that 3 damage is fairly easy, but at the end of the day, it is still a 4 mana stun card with a little bit extras, which we've seen before with Concussive Palm from Ionia. I did say previously that it's like, hey, Yasuo players, you didn't get anything. I mean, this is something out there. Listen, for people
Yasuo
that are still
players are like Noxus listeners. You're not going to get what you're here for, so move along.
No, Noxus fans, we're going back. Don't leave us. Don't listen to this man. But yeah, technically this is some Yasuo support, but like I said, one, that would be Yasuo Leona if you're playing that instead of the Yasuo and Noxus, which, I mean, it's a different deck, and since there are new Tragon cards, it probably could be better. Who knows? But the other thing with it is it's a 4-man, it's concussive palm. Like if you're playing Yasuo, that's already a mana slot in your 4-drop that's taken up by a card that leaves a body on your board instead of potentially being removal. Which concussive palm ends up usually being a removal in Yasuo decks anyways. So it's this one, like, I'm excited to see if people play it. I'm excited to see if more things that are done with Malphite, but we'll get to that when we get to the champion. And the flavor text on this is a direct quote from Chip. Not part of the story, but a direct quote from Chip. And it's, "Oop, yep, that's just the ground shaking, and not Papa doing nothing with his hands. Nope, okay, onwards and upwards." Chip.
The official voice actor. We
Chip.
got him.
Got him.
We got him on retainer.
I'm coming for that job.
Yeah, it's a cool card. You know, Tragon getting some direct damage with a little bit of extra work there is only going to make me hate them more. So let's move along. Let's move along to the landmark here.
Cough, cough, hush. Cough, cough.
Cough, cough, hush.
All right, so as far as with the landmark, let's talk about one of these cheap ones that I just brought up. So Rockfall Path. All right, so Rockfall Path is a 2-mana landmark with countdown 2, obliterate the weakest enemy. If you've listened to our show before, you already know that we're already a little bit fond of this card because we like the obliterate keyword. We like these keywords that don't have a ton of support, but that do the ones that receive some support to show that Riot is paying attention to it and at least pushing it forward and not just shoving it completely out of the way. We like seeing that, and obliterate's a really fun one because it doesn't trigger any dying effects. Which right now I haven't really seen anything that's like trying to take advantage of dying effects, but at the very least, this is something that will be in Targon's arsenal later on. And if Tragon gets to a point where we start seeing some ASOL decks coming back, this could be a really powerful card to have at least a couple of for potential control mirrors. Because if you're playing control mirrors, this is always going to hit something valuable. Mm-hmm. So it's a really cool card. But the other fun thing with it, flavor text. This is part of the Chip storyline. So this, I think this one is part 3. Yes, this is part 3. At the very least, I've already seen 5, but I haven't gone through all of it yet.
I think we have like
purely
5
honest.
or 6, and then we also have the narrated bits where he's just talking. They put as much Chip, and okay, so here goes the conspiracy theory: is did they do it before he popped off or after?
Oh man,
because text is easy to add. It's very easy to add.
I mean, I'm going to argue that they did it after. Like I
probably had some like the story.
I like the conspiracy of guys just being quick to be like, okay, this is it. Go.
We got to sell these plushies.
I mean, Riot's smart, so I wouldn't take it against them from like just go ahead and put it on there after it popped off. If they put it on before, that's just 5 head. Like that is
they knew what they were making.
That's some big brain plays, man.
It's great because one thing you'll see, once we hop into Malphite here, is that he doesn't talk much. Similar to the game, similar to characters like Rammus, he's not one for a lot of words, and we're going to tell you why.
Give us Rammus.
Give us Rammus.
Okay.
So let's hop into it. This is an interesting approach to lore here because it's essentially the birth of a champion. right? We've talked about more ephemeral creatures. We always go back to Nocturne, being the concept of a nightmare. We've talked about whimsical characters like Lulu. We've talked about characters that are grander than life. And then we've talked about Zillion, who's trapped in between time, doing his best Doctor Who impression.
That is Dr. Zillion Strange to you.
Dr. Zillion Strange. But yeah, this is the birth of a champion, and this is picking up right where Zillion's story leaves off. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that episode. It just came out. If you've missed that and you already came here, you're doing it wrong. Actually, go back to the beginning. Go listen to the Garen Lux episode. And then
we have episodes for all the champions out there so that you can get caught up. We're here for you.
Yeah. If you're ever listening, you're like, I'm lost. You shouldn't be.
Now, if you're listening, you're like, I'm curious about Noxus characters. Not us.
This is the wrong podcast. You're looking for casuals of Noxus. They're one podcast over.
One podcast over.
So we pick up after Zillion's story. And, this follows this 2,000-year legacy of, Shurima up to this point where they're dominant. They control a bunch of stuff. This cataclysmic event happens. Not so much Ruination 3.0, more like a Ruination 2.5. But this is the first time they get faced with their serious threat, which is Icathia falling to the Void. And the Void becoming more and more prevalent of a problem for all of Shurima, not just Icathia alone. So we have Shuriman armies trying to fight off the Void. But one thing they're noticing is beings grow stronger when you fight them. You've probably seen this behavior when you played the game.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah. And even in the art, you see this concept of damage being done and them getting bigger and bigger. That's something that carries over here too. And what's happening is as they're fighting the Void, it's growing. It's spreading from the original, catalyst of the Icathian ruins at this point up to the Ixtal jungles. And now they're like, okay, we need to do something. So we have a powerful and arrogant, because you can't have one with the other, elemental mage named Nazook. And Nazook is an ascendant host. So what he's doing is like, okay, you know what? I got this. Pass me the ball, coach. So he goes to the Emperor and he's like, hey, I can create a weapon powerful enough to not only fight the Void, but to cleanse its source. Big words.
Yeah. Just like it's about just making the sales pitch. All right. You get the funding and then figure it out.
You got to get that first round. So then he reveals, okay, great. I get the blessing. I'm going to start working on my new creation. And he reveals the monolith, which is a giant floating fortress of living stone. You've seen this in fantasy. This concept isn't brand new, but it is kind of ridiculous. But they're fighting the Void, so you need to do what you got to do. So
I mean, you could say it's kind of ridiculous, but again, we're talking about like some Cthulhu levels of world ending.
Yeah.
Just like everyone has been pointing out all the art that shows the Void and just like it's just spreading out just nonstop. So yeah, maybe it's time to go ridiculous.
What if Nazook showed up and he's like, all right, here you go. And he just drops a bunch of single shot rifles with bayonets.
Just some muskets.
Oh no.
Yeah. He just shows up and it's like, all right, I got you. And it's just a little box and you open it and it's just a slip of paper that says, I owe you.
Round 2 of funding, baby.
And then he's off.
So not only does he build the fortress, but in order to drive that baby, if you want to run a good cruise ship, you got to have a good crew, right? And he fills it with powerful elemental mages like himself, and then also some Ixtali god warriors to protect its walls. So soon after the monolith is built, they're like, all right, let's put this baby into action. That's why we built it. And they start taking it towards the ruins of Icathia to battle Voidborn monsters. So this battle goes on for weeks on end, and the fortress is actually struggling. It wasn't an easy feat. It wasn't like something that was going to be a walk through the park. It was a huge undertaking, and that shows. You're starting to see, the mages and warriors do some damage, but the Void responds in kind. and it's doing even more damage. And a lot of that is magical damage. So what you've probably seen in other fantasy representations is whenever you have one opposing magical force interacting with another opposing magical force, there's usually some byproduct there. The trans fats, if you will.
Collateral damage. Like there's a lot of ways that we could phrase this. But we, as far as every time we brought up the void, it is, you know, a plane that goes to consume. So if it's going up against a magical source, it's going to try to consume and overtake and make it a part of its own. And then we get some bad stone.
Some bad stone.
Some corruption on the monolith.
Malphite, which is the Ixtali word for bad stone. The surface of the fortress is getting damaged and getting seared, and these unnatural scars, and these scars are magical scars that are being left on the fortress itself. So there's a final stand, as every great battle has, and the fortress crashes into the ruins of Icathia, creating a bigger problem, because you now not only have this gaping maw of a void, you'll not only have the remains of what was Icathia, but now you have this giant magical fortress crashing into the ground, creating a tapestry of new landforms that are magically infused.
And specifically, since it's falling in Icathia, it's like it fell into an ant bed.
Yeah. Yep.
This is ground zero of the void at this point. The only thing that's safe is Zillion's tower, and he's out. He's not even a part of this.
He's not here right now.
He said, nope.
He's probably watching, but because he has all the channels, as we learned in our last episode.
He's watching with a coconut, just filled with his favorite beverage, just shades on, and just like, all right, that looks like fun. Not for me, but looks like fun.
But it's always spoilers, right? Because he knows how it ends. It's not even a good show.
And no one's even there watching it with him. He's just talking to someone that's frozen out of time. Like, watch this part.
I love it. So if you're still here and you haven't listened to that episode, you are probably so lost right now.
Sorry.
It's amazing.
I'm sorry, but we can't help it.
So after it crashes, the fortress essentially starts to become lost to the void, right? Certain pieces just go directly into the void. Others kind of sit, but they're getting sapped of their energy. And there's only one survivor, which is Nizook himself, but he kind of just pieces out. He's like, you know what? What am I going to do? I tried. I got my round of funding. I cashed out. I'm now a billionaire. Time to leave the company. This is all an analogy for startups, by the way. I don't know if you haven't caught on at this point. This is purely a metaphor.
Wait, that kills the joke. You can't just give them the, like, that's like a magician revealing his trick.
I'm trying to help out our younger listeners who don't understand the brutal world of capitalism.
Oh God, we're old.
So we move on from Nizook being the only survivor. The battle's over, and from this point, we just get time. We get time passing. So the most of the fortress that's remaining is actually being drained of its power slowly by the void, which is powering the void more. But there is one isolated shard, because it is a story of power that remains buried super deep beneath the surface where the void can't actually reach. And it's slowly regaining its strength. So one thing to keep in mind is the whole fortress was built with the idea of this self-healing magic. It had mages tending to it so it could fix itself, but because of the constant damage that's being applied during the fight in the void, they wanted something that could maintain itself as well to some degree. So if you take that little bit of power, that little shard, you give it a couple centuries, it awakened into something greater. Something Malphite, which became a Legend of Runeterra title card.
Boom. Transition. God.
40 episodes, all for this moment. We did it.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take a bow.
And as most stories in Runeterra, it travels, and people have their own tales of it, their own fibs that they tell. Most people have their own story about actually seeing Malphite, and this goes from Tragon to Zon. And then some people just say, well, I didn't see it, but I've heard it. Like I know those rumblings or that earthquake that happened. That wasn't natural. That was Malphite. He's saying something. He knows something. And after all this time, one thing that is being ingrained in Malphite is what was ingrained in the fortress for its purpose, which was to fight the void. And because so much time has passed, the void is reemerging, as we've heard through other stories. And he's now becoming more cognizant of the fact that his job is to fight the void. So, hey, Malphite the good guy.
It's almost like the gargoyle legends at this point. It's like the void pops up and it wakes up the gargoyle. Like and it's like, okay, and here comes Malphite.
The true question is, who gargs the gargoyles?
Who gargs them?
Who gargs them? So let's hop into the card before I get ridiculous. Malphite is a pretty straightforward card. Kind of what you expect. I think the greatest thing about him is the art, because we finally get to see scale as far as this design of Malphite, and people are already calling for, hey, make him the size of the map in the game too. It's like, come on, be reasonable. Come on, nerds. Like, come on, we're better than this.
Do you know how cool it would be if like you get the prismatic for Malphite, and instead of it actually just changing the border on his card, whenever you flip Malphite, it just changes your game board. So like whatever board you have equipped just gets changed into a Malphite board.
That would be dope.
I think that'd be sick.
You should.
And then it's like, look, and now it's Malphite.
You know what you should do? You should hop on our Twitter, which everyone should be following, and at Riot and be like, hey, do this.
Hey, Riot.
Have this on my desk by Monday.
I'll just put that in the company email.
Yeah, just put it in the company
I
email.
have that power. I'm not lying at all.
Yeah, Malphite's a very straightforward card. He's a 7-cost, 6/10, dumpy stamp of approval. We're going to get that stamp. I'm working on it. We're working on that stamp.
I mean, not just dumpy stamp of approval. Yeah. He also is tough. That's like an extra tough. Dumpy. Like it's chef's kiss.
He squats. Yeah.
He squats.
But his flip, his level up ability is you've summoned 12 plus mana of landmarks, which isn't difficult. When I level up, if you have the attack token, create an unstoppable force in hand, which is a card that has an ability. And we'll get there. But when he does flip, he goes up by 1, like most cards. The art changes to something also cool of him doing this big like Hulk smash ability. And now he has, when I'm summoned or round start, if you have the attack token, create an unstoppable force in hand until you win the game. Because that's essentially, we're going to tell you what an unstoppable force does.
No, you win the game.
No, you just win the game.
You just win. GG.
Yeah. Unstoppable force is a 2-cost slow spell with fleeting that says stun all enemies.
Oh.
You have a 7-11, by the way. So it's just as effective as his ult in game, which I think is great here. And they make you work for it naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm glad that Unstoppable Force just has like that power to it, because if it didn't have that power to it, this would be a very underwhelming card in all reality. And we joke
LeBlanc 2.0.
lol. And we do joke, but it's still like this. It's still not something that's just like immediately game winning. It's a very powerful effect, but it's Malphite's not seeing a lot of play like off of this first week of being in the new patch, and kind of rightfully so. There's definitely some more cards out there that are a little more competitive, but I mean, the animations on this guy is like, okay, this is exactly what I wanted to see as far as having Malphite come into Runeterra. Like it all just feels Malphite. Like this
punching and shaking the board, and just it's explosive. And Hetch's idea just makes me sad that we don't have even more of an effect with just rocks falling on. Imagine having that feeling from the lore itself, with every time he do a slam, like rocks fall on the board, and then they can disappear, but it would just look cool.
You get to do the slam, and it actually just knocks up the cards. Like the opponent's board just gets like knocked off of a table.
Yeah.
So then it's like, so then it gives you the feeling of like playing an actual card game instead of a digital one too.
It's like, can't draw a card. I knocked them all off the table. I win the game.
Layer on layer on layer.
But yeah, so Malphite, it's great representation. It's cool to have him in the game in this form. It's going to be cool to see him fit into the lore further down the road. But we are at that point in the episode, as always, where I ask Hetch a question or give him a challenge. And this one is a question. So out of all the regions we covered so far in Legends of Runeterra, which one has your favorite scenery?
Ooh.
Which we got a lot of landmarks in this one. For Tragon, we have landmarks for Shurima. They were put a focus on it, but we've never really talked about the floral and fauna of the environments around, and what we're drawn to, right? Because listen, I love my queen, right? But Freljord doesn't have anything. It's just like ice and vast emptiness, and it's not really. That aesthetic doesn't appeal to me. But which aesthetic appeals to you, Hedge? I guess I should go first, right?
I mean, you usually do.
I usually do.
Nah, I wasn't gonna be mad if you made me do it, but then you started saying that it's not Freljord.
Wait, is yours Freljord?
And then you were like after you said it's not Freljord, it's like I'm not gonna answer. Like you're already halfway there. Just answer the question.
I'm a tease. All right, it's Piltoverzon. I know you wouldn't expect it, but Piltoverzon to me, I always I'm a city boy. I live in the city of Atlanta, right? It's what I like to do. It's my scene. And when it comes to fantasy, I love dense places like hustle and bustle. You have the struggle of the rich versus poor, all that chemicals in the streets. You have the rich neighborhoods, you have the wonky neighborhoods. It just creates an environment for social distress. I love the city.
Why did you I love the chemicals of the streets. What? Atlanta's not that bad, all right?
By no means.
Everybody, anyone outside of Atlanta, he's talking too much crap about my neighboring city. I may be in a suburb, but it's still my city. Right? But two, we don't get chemicals in the streets. We just have pollen in the streets.
We just have pollen.
We're definitely closer to Zaun than anything else, but instead of the green Kim smoke going down, or getting the Zaun gray, we just got that Atlanta yellow.
Yeah. I love the scenery as it pertains to the story. In this case, not so much I would want to live there, or it appeals to me just purely aesthetically.
Yeah. All right, mine is a little bit more of I would like to live there.
Noxus.
How dare you? But it's less the actual location and more just what it is, which for me it's Bilgewater. I would love to live waterside. Yeah. Even if it was a big city that's waterside, or a port town that wasn't necessarily big, I would just love to be waterside. I would liquidate everything I had to just own a little shack that's just big enough for a cot.
Yeah.
And then spend the rest of my days on a boat, and I'd be happy with
1 gigabyte fiber.
Yeah. And I'd just live the rest of my days on a boat, and I'd be happy.
That makes sense.
For me, it'd definitely be Bilgewater. Obviously, the fact that it's all pirate themed is just a plus.
It's a plus.
It's hell yeah, pass the rum. Let's do this.
Who doesn't love a shanty once in a while?
I'll sing a shanty and I'll hold somebody up at blunderbuss point. I'll be fine on the butcher docks.
So with that, as always, thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode, and you probably know what it's going to be.
Well, we're going to talk about it. Let's see if we get to talk about it pre-nerf, post-nerf.
Yeah.
How much
day is a
how
time
much is
bomb.
Riot listening? And yeah, go ahead, make your guesses. Yeah.
Yeah, when they gave Zillion the time bomb ability, they weren't talking about that. They knew what they were getting themselves into.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, take care, everybody.